So we hear the beginning, Adi Lila, chapter 1. Yeah, 61. Shloka. Oh yeah. Gauranga. It is said, Kaviraj Goswami, a pure devotee constantly engaged in the loving service of the Lord is identical with the Lord, who is always seated in his heart. Saints are my heart, and only I am their hearts. They do not know anyone but me. Therefore, I do not recognize anyone besides them as mine. Yes, Krishna saying in Srimad Bhagavatam from Sadhava Hridayam Vayam Sudhanam Hridayam Dvaram Madanyat Dina Jananti Naham Debhyo Manak Abhi. The next one is also from Srimad Bhagavatam. The saints of your Kaliba are themselves places of pilgrimage because of their purity. They are constant companions of the Lord. Therefore, they can purify even the place of pilgrimage. Such pure devotees are of two types: personal associates, parishats, and neophyte devotees, sadhakas. There are three categories of incarnations of Godhead: partial incarnation, qualitative incarnation, and empowered incarnations. The Purushas and Matsya are examples of partial incarnations. Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva are qualitative incarnations, empowered incarnations. Are those like the Kumaras, King Prithu and Mahamuni, Vyasa, the compiler of the Vedas. So they empowered incarnations. Means the Lord is entering their heart, and for a certain service or duty, he acts through them, like Vyasadeva, also Kumaras or King Prithu. The personality of Godhead exhibits himself in two kinds of forms: Prakasha and Vilasa. Supreme Lord expands his personal form in two primary categories. The Prakash forms are manifested by Lord Krishna for his pastimes, and their features are exactly like his. When Lord Krishna married 16,000 queens in Dwarka, he did so in 16,000 Prakash expansion. Similarly, during the Rasa dance, he expanded himself in identical Prakash forms to dance beside each and every gopi simultaneously. So when the Lord manifests his Vilas expansion, however, they are all somewhat different in their bodily features. Lord Balaram is the first Vilas expansion of Lord Krishna. And the 400 Narayan forms in Vaikuntha expand from Balaram. There is no difference between the bodily forms of Sri Krishna and Balaram, except that their bodily colors are different. Similarly, Sri Narayan in Vaikuntha has 4 hands, whereas Krishna has only 2. The expansion of the Lord who manifests such bodily differences are known as Vilas Vigrahas. When the personality of Godhead expands himself in many forms, all non-different in their features, as Lord Krishna did. When he married 16,000 queens, and when he performed his rasa dance, such forms of the Lord are called manifested forms, Prakash Vigrahas. It is astounding that Lord Krishna, who is one without a second, expanded himself in 16,000 similar forms to marry 16,000 queens in their respective homes. When Lord Krishna, surrounded by groups of cowherd girls, began the festivities of the rasa dance, and the Lord of all mystic powers placed himself between each 2 girls. So when the cowherd girls and Krishna thus joined together, each girl thought that Krishna was dearly embracing her alone. To behold these wonderful pastimes of the Lords, the denizens of heaven and their wives all were eager to see their dance. Flew in the sky in their hundreds of airplanes, they showered flowers and beat sweetly on drums. So when Lord Krishna performed these pastimes in this Vrindavan, in the material plane, demigods usually not in the eternal pastimes. If numerous forms, all equal their features, are displayed simultaneously, such forms are called Prakash Vigrahas of the Lord. But when the numerous forms are slightly different from one another, they are called Vilas Vigrahas. Is this topic you want to hear this? And if there's any question on anything, you may ask. When the Lord displays numerous forms with different features, by his inconceivable potency, such forms are called Vilas Vigrahas. Examples of such Vilas Vigrahas are Baladev, Narayan in Vaikuntha Dham, and the Chaturvyuha, Vasudev, Shangishan, Pradyumna, Aniruddha. So the energy consort of the Supreme Lord are of 3 kinds. The Lakshmis in Vaikuntha, the queens in Dwarka, and the gopis in Vrindavan. The gopis are the best of all, for they have the privilege of serving Sri Krishna the primary Lord, the son of King of Raja. The personal associates of the primary Lord, Sri Krishna, are his devotees. Who are identical with him. He is complete with his entourage of devotees. Now I have worshipped all the various levels of the devotees. Worshipping them is the source of all good fortune. In the first verse I have invoked the general benediction, but in the second I have prayed to the Lord in a particular form. I offer my respectful obeisances under Sri Krishna Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda, who are like the sun and moon. They have arisen simultaneously on the horizon of Gaudiya to dissipate the darkness of ignorance, and thus wonderfully bestow benediction upon all. So Sri Krishna and Balaram, the personalities of Godhead, who formerly appeared in Vrindavan, and were millions of times more effulgent than the sun and moon, have arisen over the eastern horizon of Gaudiya, West Bengal, being compassionate for the fallen state of the world. The appearance of Sri Krishna Chaitanya and Prabhu Nityananda has surcharged the world with happiness. As the sun and moon drive away darkness by their appearance and reveal the nature of everything, these two brothers dissipate the darkness of ignorance, covering the living beings, and enlighten them with knowledge of the absolute truth. The darkness of ignorance is called Kaitava, the way of cheating, which begins with religiosity, economic development, sense gratification, and liberation. So also darkness or ignorance. What is meaning cheating? So religiosity, economic development, sense gratification, and even liberation. What religiosity does not mean it is something spiritual. It is cheating. It is darkness of ignorance. It is kaitava. Religiosity is just in this material world. It manifests in a way that God has to take the position of a servant. And we are the enjoyers. So, this is cheating. So religiosity means I pray for give me, save me, save this or this situation, just it becomes our servant. Then through this perhaps pious activities, economic development may come. I may get, let's say, simple ways, money or opulence, this world. And then, of course, the next one is karma. I want to enjoy it, sense gratification. And then I got sad of the sense gratification. I realized that it is not working in this world. then all go for liberation. But still the mistake is liberation is also for my senses, to satisfy myself. So there's nothing there to satisfy the Lord. So it is all darkness. It belongs to the ignorance. The great scripture Srimad Bhagavatam, compiled by Mahamuni Vyasadeva from 4 original verses, describes the most elevated and kind-hearted devotees and completely rejects the cheating ways of material-motivated religiosity. It propounds the highest principle of eternal religion, which can factually mitigate the threefold miseries of a living being and award the highest benediction of full prosperity and knowledge. Those willing to hear the message of this scripture in a submissive attitude of service can at once capture the Supreme Lord in their hearts. Therefore, there's no need for any scripture other than Srimad Bhagavatam. That's a long purport of Swami Maharaj. But these purports will be hearing the whole year, every day. Is there any question or any comments at this point? Then we can hear what he says about liberation. The foremost process of cheating is to desire to achieve liberation. By merging into the Supreme, for this causes the permanent disappearance of loving service to Krishna. So you are not able to make relation to the Lord. What to say of loving, because you're merging into emptiness, to deep sleep, dreamless sleep. So for this causes the permanent disappearance of loving service to Krishna. So sweetness and communication and all these things are gone.
This translation, and you say it's permanent, means that this person completely disappears. Existence of this person
Not
disappears.
This is Buddhism.
Yeah.
This is something like suicide, spiritual suicide. They think that everything is finished. I am finished. I'm not existing anymore. But Shankaracharya, he preached in the beginning especially, we are still energy, life energy is still there, but it is melting into the Supreme, means become one with everything. So, but it is impersonal understanding. You are not a person, you are just a mass of emptiness or a mass of everything, melting with everything. Bhaktivedanta give a short commentary on this. The desire to merge into the impersonal Brahman is the subtlest type of atheism. The subtlest. So that meaning atheism means there exists no God. I become God myself. I am melting in Him. I become one with Him. As soon as such atheism, disguised in the dress of liberation, is encouraged, one becomes completely unable to traverse the path of devotional service, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So it is we may attain such a goal, but then we are completely unable to traverse the path of devotional service, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. We are not realizing that behind all this creation there must be a person, because we are also persons. So we are just a mirror of the original. We try to imitate him here, now. This is very simple. If you think deeper, then you will come to this conclusion. We are imitating gods. The prefix pra in the verse of Srimad Bhagavatam indicates that the desire for liberation is completely rejected. So all kinds of activities, both auspicious and inauspicious, that are detrimental to the discharge of transcendental loving service to Lord Sri Krishna, are actions of the darkness of ignorance. So by the grace of Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda, this darkness of ignorance is removed, and the truth is brought to light. The absolute truth is Sri Krishna, and loving devotion to Sri Krishna exhibited in pure love is achieved through congregational chanting of the holy name, which is the essence of all bliss. What is Tattva Vastu Krishna Krishna Bhakti Prema Rupa Nam Sankirtan Yes Sabha Ananda Svarupe. The sun and moon dissipate the darkness of the external world and thus reveal external material objects like pots and plates. But these two brothers, Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda, dissipate the darkness of the inner core of the heart. And thus they help one meet the two kinds of Bhagavatas, persons of or things in relationship with the personality of Godhead. One of the Bhagavatas is the great scripture Srimad Bhagavatam, and the other is the pure devotee absorbed in the mellows of loving devotion. So the action of these two Bhagavatas, the Lord instills the mellows of transcendent loving service into the heart of a living being. And thus the Lord in the heart of his devotees comes under the control of the devotee's love. It's a very high understanding, because the jiva, what expands, he can develop, develops such deep feeling, love to the Lord, that he becomes even his servant. But like Arjuna on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, he took the position of the driver of the cart. And Arjuna was sitting, so all the arrows were going towards Arjuna. Krishna sitting before him and protecting him from this. He took this position.
Maharaj, can you repeat this? When Lord descended, he brought two gifts.
When?
This last shloka, he spoke on Granta Bhagavate Mahabhagavate.
But these two brothers, Lord Chaitanya, Lord Nityananda, dissipated darkness of the inner core of the heart, and thus they help one meet the two kinds of Bhagavatas, persons or things in relation with the personality of Godhead. Means whatever is directly related. These are his prasadas, or these are the Vrindavan. These are all his, what is connected with his pastimes. Persons or things in a relationship with the personality of Godhead. So whatever is, even the flute, when they hear the flute, then the ecstatic symptoms manifest in those Vrindavan. There's so many examples given. One of the Bhagavatas is the great scripture Srimad Bhagavatam. And the other is the pure devotee, absorbed in the mellows of loving devotion. So through the action of these two Bhagavatas, the Lord instills the mellows of transcendent loving service into the heart of a living being. And thus the Lord in the heart of his devotee comes under the control of the devotee's love. Yes. The first wonder is that both brothers appear simultaneously, and the other is they illuminate the innermost depths of the heart. So this is not externally like Srimad Bhagavatam. It's a transcendental literature, can only be understood by realized soul. Even we read it, but if you cannot hear it from if you cannot hear it from pure devotee, we may misunderstand. We may not get the sense. So the real message, or it illuminates the innermost depths of the heart. It is in us, the real understanding. It is not something in the outside world, in the concrete world. It is much, much more fine and much more deep. So if we go on like chanting the holy name, like Mahaprabhu and Nityananda, they were giving this, then everything can be attained. These two, the sun and moon, are very kind to the people of the world. Thus, for the good fortune of all, they have appeared on the horizon of Bengal. Let us therefore worship the holy feet of these two lords. Thus one can be rid of all difficulties on the path of self-realization. I have invoked the benediction of the Lords with these two verses, 1 and 2 of this chapter. Now please hear attentively the purport of the third verse. I purposely avoid extensive description for fear of increasing the bulk of this book. I shall describe the essence as consciously as possible. So essential truth spoken consciously is true eloquence. Simply hearing submissively will free one's heart from all the faults of ignorance, and thus one will achieve deep love for Krishna. This is the path of peace. If one patiently hears about the glories of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Haribol. If one patiently hears about the glories of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Sri Nityananda Prabhu, Sri Advaita Prabhu, and their devotees, devotional activities, names and fame along with the mellow of their transcendent loving exchanges, one will learn the essence of the Absolute Truth. Therefore, I have described this in Chaitanya Charitamrita with logic and discrimination. So praying at the lotus feet of Sri Rupa and Sri Raghunath, always desiring their mercy. I, Krishna Das, narrate Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, following in their footsteps. So, if there's any question or anything to say on otherwise, this topic. We may not be ready to hear it whole night. Everything clear? Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Charitamrita ki Jai, Sri Kaviraj Goswami ki Jai, Sri Gurudev Nitya Lila Pavishtam Vishnupada Paramhamsa Gacharya Stota Satsi Shima Bhakti Vaibhav Puri Goswami Maharaj ki Jai. Jai Guru